Where does a movie begin for you?
I think for me, our movie really begins with an idea or the story, the key story element, or the what if. Like this is kind of like a thought, and sometimes like Lo will bring, we'll have an idea or have a dream, and say, oh, there's this really great, and like I always jot it down. Like I jot down her ideas and her dreams and my dreams when I have an idea or a thought I wake up from. Or if I'm daydreaming and like, oh, so I kind of try to write all those little thoughts down. And then eventually what I find happens is there's some of those ones that get written down. There's one that kind of keeps chirping, keep like, hey, and like more ideas come to it. And at a certain point it reaches critical mass. I mean, usually when I have like 10 or 12 pages of ideas relating to a particular story, it kind of reaches the critical mass where I start going, okay, now we're going to figure out what this is a real script. All these ideas are great. And then figuring out how it coalesces into the script. And then it kind of evolves. Like I work with Lo, like when I finish the first draft is very useful because she usually gets fresh eyes on it at that point. So it's great to get like a fresh perspective. And then the story grows. And then of course, as you are inspired by locations or real things you experience, and oftentimes as it progresses, like when you start casting, like an actor can be a huge like influence in terms of like, oh, this person, this like changes that character. This can make the movie turn into this. So all those things and it just kind of grows. So it's fun. It's probably my favorite part is like developing the story.
And once that happens, once that chirping is so loud, then how do you bring it to life? How do you know that it's time to start casting, that this is something worth spending time writing a script on?
Well, it's funny. It's like sometimes I don't know until after I've written the script. I mean, I have this giant bin of scripts, but sometimes I'll finish the first draft of a script, and I'll feel like, okay, well that's good for now. I finished this first draft and there it is, and I read it and go, okay, this is interesting, but not right now, and it'll go in the bin. So sometimes I just in the process of writing the first draft. But then if I finish the first draft and Lo looks at it and I look at it and go, there's something here, then it might lead to the second draft, the third draft, the fourth draft. At a certain point, the story gets to a point where you're like, yes, this story is here. It's like, this is a really, really good story and we should really make it. And then at that point, it kind of moves into the pre-production phase or the phase of like, well, how can we actually make it happen?
So writing a script is almost like a safety valve in some sense, because if you see that first draft and you're like, okay, I did it. I'm not like totally wild about it. Imagine you spend 2-3 years trying to, get it made, raise money, get distribution, all that.
Well, that's what it really boils down to, because it's so hard as an indie filmmaker to make a movie. It has to be one that you kind of like are insane to make because the journey is going to be so difficult. So it has to be an idea that can really stand that test of time, that you could live with it for that time to not only make it, but then you got to do the festival circuit, and then you got to get the distributor. And then once the distributor takes it, you got to work on the marketing of it to help the distributor out so people know the movie exists. So it's a very long process. It usually ends up being a 3 to 5 year process when you go through the whole cycle. So it needs to be an idea that you feel really, really, really strongly about. It's interesting because if I was in a position probably to snap my fingers, a lot of these other scripted ideas I probably would love to see into fruition if I knew it could be a shorter cycle. And I think they could actually be really, really good stories that'd be entertaining and people would enjoy. But the trick is, because there's only so much you can do, you kind of have to pick the one that kind of leaps to the top, like me. You got to do me, and that's kind of it seems like there's always one which will float to the top like that. And also it's realistically, it's money and budget. It's like I have ideas all the time. I can't make into a feature film right now because it's too much money. I can't raise it. You go through the process of trying to shop it to people and get a producer involved, and you go through that process. But you know that on our own, we can't do it. It would need someone else involved, which we'd love to do. And we have several of those that we hopefully one day will happen. But that's kind of on a different track than the ones that you do as just a straight up indie filmmaker, because that's a little bit more out of control because you're dependent, on some different people saying yes. So it's like, it's like, that's not completely in your control. Whereas the ones that that no matter what you can do if you set your mind to it, those kind of move to the top as well, because nothing can stop you as long as you decide to do it. That's the only thing that would stop you from doing it, is the decision like, yes, I'm doing this one.